that you drafted in the first or second round. But my objective here today isn't only to give you the top options to start and the worst ones that you want to sit, but to help you identify which ones are good starters and aren't good starters each week. But more than anything, we're talking guys that you probably drafted, after the third round, or guys that maybe you drafted in the third round or earlier, right? That you actually have some concerns about. And maybe they started off awfully this season. They got off to a terrible start, but now we're in position to smash. So whether it's keep playing this guy, whether it's, oh my God, I can't believe he's been this good, we're going to start him again, or it's, hey, pump the brakes, don't freak out, get him in your starting lineups this week. That's what we're here for. Let's get into it. Must starts, must sits for week 3. And before we do, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up. Only takes a second, helps us greatly here, improve the channel, keep things going, and, well, build upon what we've already done thanks to you supporting us all this time. Subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and hit me with a follow at Laffy_D on Twitter. That's LOUGHY_D. Let's get into it. I don't want to say this is a make or break spot for Saquon Barkley because there's still a ton of time left in the season. But we absolutely want to see something sooner than later from a guy who we drafted in the late first or early second rounds. Barkley played on only 3 days rest in week 2's Thursday Night Football loss to Washington, but touched the ball 15 times and actually saw a significant uptick in snaps, logging 84% of them after being on the field for only 48% of them in week 1. Now he'll have 9 days in between games to be fully rested for a mouth-watering matchup against the Falcons, who have been a nightmare on defense and are 3-point dogs on the road. Barkley showed a glimpse of his pre-injury self on Thursday too, with a 41-yard run, and we have to believe he still has the explosion and elusiveness to make him a top-tier running back again. While the early season numbers don't look great, there's no way we aren't plugging Barkley into lineups this Sunday. The Giants' offensive line is still a problem, for sure, but volume will be the key to success for Barkley. And once he's fully healthy, there will be no reason to keep rolling Devontae Booker onto the field, who played only 14% of snaps in week 2. Javonte Williams will very likely be the Broncos' clear lead back by the end of his rookie season, but he isn't there yet. That said, Williams has only seen one fewer touch than Melvin Gordon on the season and has out-touched him 27-24 on the ground, so we're making progress. The Broncos have also been in favorable game scripts through the first 2 weeks, but week 3's home matchup against the Jets might be their best one yet. So far, the Jets have a bottom 6 run defense grade on PFF and are 26 in run DVOA on Football Outsiders. And Zach Wilson has been so bad under center in New York that the Denver offense should dominate both time of possession and have favorable field position throughout. While Williams hasn't been wildly impressive to kick off his NFL career, you likely drafted him in the 7th or 8th round, which at worst would have made him a flex play in 12-team leagues. I hadn't been on tent in starting Williams yet at all this season, but this is the week to plug him in as a flex play and let the Jets do their thing for him. Both Williams and Gordon have 4 carries in the red zone this season, but the former is the only one with a carry inside the 10. There's a lot to like in week 3 for the young rookie running back. Mike Williams has been spectacular through the first 2 weeks, leading the Chargers in receptions, targets, and touchdowns. Actually, Williams' 2 touchdown receptions are the only ones Justin Herbert has thrown this year. Williams has a 25% target share too, which is extremely encouraging given the Chargers offense has yet to exhibit that same explosiveness we saw with Herbert under center in 2020. That outburst could happen on Sunday though when they take on the Chiefs, who score points in bunches and almost always force their opponents to throw. Interestingly, Herbert's pass volume is limited in 2 meetings with the Kansas City Chiefs last year, but a lot of that has to do with his efficiency, averaging nearly 10 yards per attempt and eclipsing 300 yards in both of those games. Still,
it gets over. Zach Wilson, 7 touchdowns, no issue.
Yeah, if you combine it to the other team, maybe.
That's the key.
Yeah.
I've seen some Sanchez games like that. What is up? Good morning. This is the Awesemo Betting Show presented by BetMGM with Ben Rossa. I'm Pete McCarthy. Give us a follow at JazzRazDFS at the PD Mac. And Ben is ready for the morning slate. He's already got his coffee on, and obviously the bacon's been taken care of.
Part of that's dangerously accurate with the bacon. I don't drink coffee, so no coffee for me, but I am ready to go. We got a whole slate of games, no buys still. A whole bunch to break down, Pete. And I'm going to say, I thought last week went pretty well. I was actually really happy where we landed, and we're going to keep that momentum going here today.
Yeah, got to be accountable, right? We'll be accountable every morning for you, how we did the week before. And we did give you some underdog winners outright. I threw out the Ravens and the Cowboys. They were both able to connect. You nailed the Carolina Panthers, which was a very impressive pick. And I thought that you had taken the Raiders as well. I know we talked about them on the money line, but we at least kind of said that's a possibility. And I suppose the other one was I threw out the Miami Dolphins would win. So our point differential for the day wasn't very good, but that doesn't really matter when it comes to
no, this isn't soccer. So we're all right there. And yeah, it pains me. He's on another show right now. I got to give Josh Engelman credit for the Raiders. He really liked them on the breakfast menu, which is available on the Awesemo Odds channel that you're on right now. We do it every morning. He kind of got me on them. So credit to him there. But yeah, listen, early season NFL, I think we could take advantage. There's a lot of lines today that are interesting. So I'm excited to dive in.
And get involved on the chat. And if you have some questions, look ahead at the games we're about to hit, and we'll mix them in as we go along. We'll hit some player props along the way as well. Also, today's show is brought to you by our new sports betting podcast, Betting You. It's Ben, it's Matt Gajeski. They've got you covered with everything college football. So it's going to be a very long show this week as they take you through each conference and the best bets on the board. Betting You is available now wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday. And of course, for our show, give a like, subscribe. It's always the nice thing to do. It's like going into a restaurant, giving a tip, right? Same thing. We appreciate that if you can make that happen. And of course, be sure to check out today's free premium tools and data over at Awesemo, which is NFL Week 3 top stacks. Now we'll be locking in on the betting side of this. And one trend early on this season, again, Ben, last week, the underdogs took 9 of the 16 games, 21-11 against the spread on the season. I don't know, just big picture looking at this slate, this feels like the week where the favorites are going to start to even things out a little bit as we have a better idea of what we're dealing with these NFL teams, even if it's not a full picture yet.
No doubt about it. You get a couple extra data points. Some of these teams, the depth becomes an issue. I think one of the things for me, when I look at who's a good team, it's not just your starters. It's that when inevitably guys go down, your replacements aren't a huge drop off. And I think as the season goes on, we're going to see the good teams be able to hold it together. Whereas some of these teams ravaged by injuries that aren't a great team, they really start to crumble. And I think even in week 3, we're going to start to see that.
Yeah. Like if Jacob Eason is your backup quarterback,
that
might be problematic, but it does appear Carson Wentz is going to give it a go despite having no healthy ankles. He sprained both of them at the end of last week, didn't practice much this week, but was able to get back on the field late this week for the Indianapolis Colts. They're taking on a Tennessee team with a big win that a lot of people saw in overtime in Seattle, one that the Titans desperately needed to have. But I'll tell you what, you look at this game, Titans are favored by 5.5. You could say, they figured it out. Derrick Henry, the whole 9 yards. I really wonder about this defense. We saw Kyler Murray rip them apart. Obviously, the Seahawks were able to put up some points. That has been one of the strengths for the Titans over the years, yet we haven't seen it this year, even if there are, or they have played 2 much better offenses than what we think Indianapolis is capable of.
They definitely do seem apt to get into shootouts regardless of opponent. We kind of saw that at times last year. The thing I do like, though, is this offense, I don't even know if they're underrated at this point, but they're just so high octane with the 2 alphas on the outside. Derrick Henry with his 40 touches. And if he's going to start catching the ball, forget it. They are at home. It was a big win. And then what does Wentz get you? The interesting thing about this line, they budgeted for Wentz being in the whole time because this was around 5.5 the whole time. I thought that what was going to happen if he was ruled out, this would float all the way north of 7. That's not going to happen because it looks like he's going to give it a go. But yeah, Titans at home, to me, this is a little short. Maybe it's a little trappy, but I do believe in this Tennessee team is firmly the best team in the South.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I do like the points here. Division game. You're getting 5.5. And again, I'm not a believer in Tennessee's defense. And the other thing is, Indianapolis's defense really hasn't been very good this year. And this is where, look, now we have 2 games of data. Last week, it's like, all right, let's not overreact to week 1. Now you're looking at 2 games that are allowing 120 rushing yards per game in Indianapolis. That would seem to be a bad mix with Tennessee, but I'm still leaning more towards what I thought going into the year, which was that Indianapolis would have a pretty good defense, and covering 5.5 points, I like them in this spot. I really do. I don't necessarily love them to win, but 5.5 points to me, a divisional game, don't expect a whole lot of scoring. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to speak to the Colts side of things real quick, they didn't exactly have the easiest draw to start the year either. So they did have some home games, but the Rams are a very good team. You mentioned the Seahawks earlier. So I'm not saying they're awful. I just worry about, Wentz is not exactly, and this is something that's really surprised me. He hasn't been good. He threw an interception on a shovel pass before he got injured last week. And if he is just a statue there, I really do worry what they're going to give him. So maybe the running game can spell him. Maybe Pittman can get over the top, but I'm a little worried. And I do think that ultimately it'll be too much for Tennessee at home in this one.
All right. Well, I see Maxime took Derrick Henry receiving yards over 13.5. So you're looking at 2 receptions. You pretty much got that covered.
You do. And they've been a little more keen to give him some looks in the passing game. I don't know if that's, he's never going to be Kamara. We know that, but he's not a virtual zero anymore. And that's something, if he starts to add that, watch out. And it's one way to take advantage of this game if you don't want to bet a side.
Next up, and this is the game that when I looked at the data, when I imagined my own spread on this game, this is the biggest gap of all the games on the day for me. And that is, I like the Giants big time, only giving 2.5 points, under a field goal to the Atlanta Falcons. They'll be at home. Remember, they played on Thursday night against Washington, so they get a few extra days. Sometimes that could be overrated, but when it comes to Saquon Barkley, it's not underrated at all. And maybe they do let him go a little bit. We saw he at least does have the ability to still put on the afterburners with the long run that he did have against Washington, even if he was not a big factor in that game. What do you make of Giants Falcons, Ben?
We are in lockstep. I like the Giants a lot today. I think they're going to get the first win. I don't think Atlanta's an awful team, to be honest, but this is all systems go. Saquon gets 10 games. He actually played north of 80% of snaps on that Thursday on the short week. So his prop at 62.5 rushing yards, I think he can crush that here. Evan Ingram looks like he's going to play. This is the first week where the Giants are going to have all their weapons. I think they spread out Atlanta. I think they run through Atlanta. On the other side, yeah, Ridley and Pitts can cause some problems, but at the end of the day, finding this under a field goal at home for a Giants team that easily could be 1-1, I am with you. This is one of my favorite bets of the week.
Yeah, and if it should be a loud crowd there at MetLife Stadium, as loud as that stadium gets. Maybe it's usually half visiting fans anyway, but they're retiring number 10, Eli Manning, so he'll do his stand-up routine at halftime, the self-deprecating humor and all of that. So that'll be part of it for the New York Giants. But one thing that's just interesting about this game, kind of aside from the betting, I mean, could you imagine being the losing team come Monday? If you're Matt Ryan or Daniel Jones, I would not be listening to the talk radio in town if you're starting the season 0-3.
Tough scene, because I really don't think these teams belong in the 0-3. I don't think they're great teams, but to me, they're not the worst teams in the league. They're really not. And it's going to be tough because one of them clearly is going to start 0-3. I think, though, the Giants, at home, off the 10-day, if you can't get this done, you really got to question what's going on. I think Daniel Jones, Saquon, they will do enough, particularly offensively today.
Yeah, we agree 1,000% on this game, so we'll blow right through it. Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs. This is one of the fun games of the day. They get the Los Angeles Chargers, divisional matchup. Justin Herbert really played very well against Kansas City last year, went over 300 yards passing in both games, 4 touchdowns combined in those games. Of course, you look on the other end of the Chiefs coming off that Sunday night loss to the Ravens. Can't really say they played poorly. And Patrick Mahomes has just dominated the division, 16-2 in the AFC West as a starter. Really the question, look, the Chiefs are at home now. Is a touchdown too rich for your blood to give up to this Justin Herbert-led Chargers offense?
I think it's a little rich. It's not a game that's on my card, and I'll be honest, I don't think it's going to be on my card, but divisional matchup, a lot of points can be scored, so it's a little easier to extend. But at the same time, I almost said San Diego. I will always think of them as San Diego, but the Chargers, regardless of where they at, they've got some weapons. And certainly you see someone like Mike Williams, if he stays healthy, it's just another playmaker for them. We know about Eckler. We know about Keenan Allen. I think they can score with the Chiefs a little bit. I'm interested to see the Chiefs, if they can get something out of Edwards-Helaire, slow start to the season, can they be a little more balanced? In Arrowhead, I think they probably win the game. That's not breaking any news. I have no interest, though, in laying a full touchdown.
I'll tell you what, a lot of people in LA forget that the Chargers are not in San Diego anymore. And did you see what it was like with all the Cowboys fans just taking over that stadium?
Field.
It's every week. It's
I know,
amazing.
It's brutal.
I'm kind of interested. The Rams will be at home against the Buccaneers. Like, do the Buccaneers have bandwagon fans now? They're going to take over there, and we'll get to that game a little bit later. Are you a big believer in, hey, the Chiefs are a motivated team now because they lost to the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Now they got to come back and take it all out on the Chargers.
I'm not a believer in that. I am a believer that when you're a really good team and you're at home, you tend to win games, not because you're more motivated. You're just, Chiefs are really good at home. So I get it. I do think, though, the Chargers can cause some issues. Derwin James, Bose, they've got guys. It's just, when push comes to shove, 55-point total feels about right. The spread feels about right. I think Kansas City should be about a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, I took the Chiefs. I had them at about 10 points in this game. So I don't mind giving up the 7. And I mean, look, they're relatively healthy. They have all these weapons, and the Chargers offense, they didn't put up a lot of points. I understand they had kind of an illegal shift that was questionable late in that game, a couple of opportunities that got away against Dallas. But I'm curious, if that offense is just going to step up the way you expect. Year 2 isn't always as smooth as a great rookie year can be for some of these guys. I think what do they call it? The sophomore slump has been said many times.
That is the thing. I'm a believer in that. You get some film on these guys, particularly when you're in the division. If you've seen a guy a couple times a year, it becomes a little easier to game plan. Certainly, when Justin Herbert got thrown in, it was right before a game. And I believe that was the Chiefs, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. But when Tyrod got stabbed by his own team, who the hell is planning for Justin Herbert? So I think that now the Chiefs will be better prepared. He's still going to be effective at times, but ultimately, Kansas City is a very, very good team, as we all know.
Well, I'm seeing in the YouTube chat right now, people are saying, where did you get this line on Derrick Henry as far as the receiving yards? Well, one of the tools that we have at Awesemo that you could use to find the best line is at Odds Shopper. So check out Awesemo's Odds Shopper, find the best line available on the game or the player prop you're betting on, and it gives you the edge to beat the house. I mean, look, if you get 10.5 yards over on Derrick Henry receiving yards versus 13.5 yards, sometimes that helps. So head on over to oddsshopper.awesemo.com. We compile the best bets available for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. Even better, Odds Shopper now has expected win percentage and return on investment included for NFL and MLB player props, and that's derived straight from Awesemo's DFS projections. So you can now find the best edges betting player props and some great tools to take advantage of there. Next up, Steelers, 2.5-point favorite on the Cincinnati Bengals. This game's interesting because, to me, look, Pittsburgh is a better team than Cincinnati on their home field. I mean, normally wouldn't question at all giving up 2.5 points, but no TJ Watt, no Deontay Johnson. Ben Roethlisberger is dealing with a pec injury, which might have affected his performance last week. I wouldn't say they're in disarray, Pittsburgh, but they're hardly walking into this feeling great about themselves.
This is a wild. So this spread is cratered. I saw 4.5. It has crossed 3. So serious money, and the injuries are really affecting this. It's a tough one because, in all honesty, if you like Cincinnati, you missed it. Like, you had your opportunities. You should have hit it at 3.5 or 4 or 4.5. Taking it at 2.5 doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So now, really, to me, the question is, now that it's under 3, do we like the Steelers? Very, very low total. Could this game be grinded out? I think it could. I am a little shell-shocked after what happened last week. They looked lost on offense. I mean, Najee Harris is doing his best, but that offensive line is giving them nothing. Big Ben looks borderline cooked at this point. I got to ask you, what is left of the Steelers? We know the defense is going to travel, and they're always a strong unit, but do you think they can move the ball effectively, even against a team like Cincy?
Well, considering their whole offseason was dedicated to improving the run game and building up this offensive line, and you still really can't run the ball. I mean, Najee Harris, his biggest play is coming in the pass game. So everything the Steelers have been trying to do to get back to the Steelers kind of mentality, let's run the ball, out physical these teams, they don't have that up front. I still, though, look, they're on their home field. They are banged up. Like, for instance, TJ Watt, he might be the best pass rusher in the game. If it's a quarterback that's out, I mean, you're swinging the spread, 5 points if it's a star quarterback and maybe more than that. What are you doing for TJ Watt, a really impactful pass rusher, unable to go in this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue for a team that right now is relying. I mean, they beat Buffalo, incredibly impressive win, but they beat them defensively. They were just fantastic, and that is what they need to do. I think now Burrow is down a couple players here and there. I do think Boyd will be busy, as Chad is pointing out. Certainly, if they can get a lot out of Mixon, his prop is 70.5 on the ground. That feels about right. I think it's Pittsburgh or pass at this point. Of course, if I had a time machine, I would have went back and bet, Cincy north of 3. I didn't do that. So this one could just end up being a wash because the line has really moved drastically.
Yeah, I'll take Pittsburgh at 2.5. I mean, that's just the difference between 2.5 and 3.5 to me is massive. And we did see, I think, at least 2 games last week swing right on whether you're getting that extra half point or not getting that half point. I'm not into buying that point necessarily, but if it's available to me, look, I'm going to take the team favored by 2.5 pretty often. I do like the Steelers at home on this day. Next up, really interesting game. Justin Fields will be starting at quarterback for the Chicago Bears, as they have long been awaiting there in the Windy City. He gets his opportunity. I mean, it's a tough draw. He has to go to Cleveland. Pretty good defense. They run the ball really well, so we'll see how many opportunities Justin Fields gets. This is a big spread, though. 7.5 points. I'm a little hesitant to just jump on board with the overhyped quarterback in the preseason, which I think Justin Fields fits that description. Wasn't exactly amazing in the time that he saw in for Andy Dalton last week, but it is a lot of points. I believe in Chicago's defense, even though they got ripped up on Sunday night against the Rams to give a bad first impression. 7.5 is a little too much for me. How do you like this game and Justin Fields getting the start on the road at the Dog Pound?
Tough spot, really tough spot. But at the same time, it's a good number. It's a low total, 44.5. The hook matters here. If this was 7, or certainly if it was 6.5, I wouldn't be advocating for the Bears. And I don't think they're going to win the game. But Fields, unlike other quarterbacks, certainly he presents, I think, a tougher dynamic when you're going against him for the first time. His best asset is his wheels. His prop right now for rushing is 50.5. So clearly the books are expecting maybe double-digit carries for him. I would assume Chicago wants to slow down the offense, really be methodical, limit the touches, limit the turnovers, and rely on what I think is their defense isn't elite like it was, but it's not as bad as it showed, certainly against the Rams. So Cleveland, before Tyrod went out last week, Pete, they were in a somewhat battle with the Texans. That was not a runaway game. And then Davis Mills came in and we saw what happened. So I don't think they're invincible by any stretch. I'm going to lean to the Bears here. I will take the points.
Cleveland's not built to go out and score 40-plus points. They are built to get the lead, and then they want to run the ball down your throat and end the game. So even if this is a one-sided game, to me, Cleveland has a tough time covering 7.5 points if things are going their way. How about the Justin Fields prop? You said 50.5 on the rushing yards. I tend to like the over on that. I think you'll see him get out of the pocket, try to make some things happen. Maybe it's not designed rushes for Justin Fields, but just having to escape when he can. But I think the opportunities will be there for him. You agree?
I do. I think that, with a guy like him, he's going to look to know what's comfortable. When you get pressure, we saw this with Daniel Jones against Washington. When they're bearing down on you, you're going to pull it and run. And I think a team like Cleveland will force him to run in some of these spots. So you've got that. On the other side, you do have Odell making his return. I'm interested to see what he gives them. It looks like they've been cautious. So I don't mind attacking that prop 45.5 if you think that he comes in and gives them a much needed boost on the outside.
Yeah, they could use it. And they'll, like I said, they'll need that if they're going to cover the 7.5. And not big on the Browns at that number. Similar number. The Ravens are at the Detroit Lions. The Ravens an 8-point favorite. I guess the question here is what exactly is happening with Lamar Jackson. He was ill earlier this week, but he had, I guess, joked during a press conference that he hurt himself in the celebration when he somersaulted into the end zone. And then it turned out, no, he's just ill. And that's why he missed a practice or part of a practice earlier this week. Whatever it is, the Ravens, to me, they're that much better than the Lions. How are you feeling about it? Look, it's a road team coming off a big win on Sunday Night Football, going up against the team that played Monday night and hung in for 30 minutes against the Green Bay Packers. And the Ravens giving up 8 points here.
Yeah, I feel like I could get myself in trouble here. I think the Lions might win, honestly. I really do. They're not a good team. They haven't been gashed by the run by any stretch. They're middle of the pack, allowing 3.8 yards per rushing attempt. The passing defense at times could be problematic. But again, Lamar and this team, they want to run the ball. So maybe they exploit Detroit over the top for some big plays. But man, coming off a game against the Chiefs that did have elements, even Lamar said it, like the Super Bowl, monkey off the back, all those type of statements. Now they get a weird, sleepy game in Detroit. It's north of a touchdown. I definitely like the points because say what you want about Detroit. Hawkinson, Goff, even this, whoever's on the outside, they are moving the ball at times. I think they will put up points. Can they stop the Ravens? I honestly don't know. But if you're going to give me 8, I will take it.
Well, I don't think they stopped the Ravens. Detroit has allowed at least 35 points in 5 straight games. Now, we're going back to last season for some of that, but they haven't stopped much of anybody. And we saw the Packers just able to put it in the red zone time and time again. And I will say, as far as taking the Lions to win, even if you don't feel great about it, right? You're plus 325 on the money line. So you don't have to be throwing everything in on the Lions and they're going to make or break your day. Yeah, that could be one you have a little bit of fun with and collect nice on.
That's right. Just a sprinkle. I don't want any tweets in my feed saying, what is this guy doing? Yes, it's the Lions, but they are at home and I know they're pretty bad, but they're going to win a couple games this year. There are teams that will knock off better teams. And this is the type of spot they can do it. So if they're able to mitigate Lamar's rushing and stop Hollywood Brown in particular over the top, I think they'll hang in. I really do. So Detroit, sneaky team. It's just a bad spot for Baltimore situationally.
Jared Goff, 271.5 passing yards overall. I mean, look, if you like the Lions to win, maybe you think they're running the ball late. Do you like the over or the under on that?
I lean a little over just because of the game script in the sense it seems like the Lions only have one formula and it's going to be to hold on for dear life on defense, but outscore them ultimately. I don't see many ways, as you mentioned, going back for a while now, this defense is just not up to par.
All right. We got another big Sunday in front of us and get ready to turn big plays into paydays. We have a new offer with BetMGM that you should be taking advantage of if it's available in your state. If you're a new BetMGM user, all you have to do is deposit at least $10. $10 into BetMGM using the link in the description of this video, and you will get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's 3 months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, which gives you full access to everything we have to offer in daily fantasy, season-long fantasy football, and betting for all sports. And the next 3 months, to me, it's the peak of the sports calendar. You have NFL football all the way through. You got the baseball playoffs coming up, and then the start of the NBA season as well. So that's a good time to be getting this deal. And new customers also start with a risk-free bet up to $1,000 upon deposit. Register now and go all in on the action with the king of sportsbooks. This offer is valid in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. Terms and conditions apply. This is a game that I think I stared at for a while. The Saints are at New England. The data seemed to kind of lean towards New England, and this was one where I went with my gut a little bit here. I just have a hard time seeing the New Orleans Saints play as poorly as they did against Carolina. 2 very different games from them, and I don't think New England's very good. So if you're giving me points on the New Orleans Saints, I'm liable to take them, and this is a 2.5-point spread. What do you make of this game? Because I don't have a strong feeling about it, Ben, admittedly.
Yeah, I'm with you in that regard. I certainly wish it was 3, of course, because I do lean to the Saints as well, and that's a key number. It could easily land on 3. where I'm going with this game is this, that I think New England, the way they're structured, they really have a pretty crisp formula. Mac Jones, don't screw it up. Lean on Harris, maybe sprinkle White in the passing game. The problem with that is New Orleans is one of the teams that you can't run against. It's impossible. 2.8 yards per opponent rush this year. That's second in the league. They were top 3 last year. Damian Harris is not going to be able to control this game for New England. So if they stop him, what is left? If Mac Jones can beat them, more power to him. But I think that when you look at New Orleans side, I trust them to be a little more dynamic offensively. They had a weird situation. I didn't like them last week against Carolina. I like them a lot more in this spot.
Yeah, with Mac Jones, while he did win against the Jets, I mean, look, they have 4 interceptions against Zach Wilson. He's throwing little checkdowns to James White, who is scampering. They were able to run the ball pretty well. You had Harris with the big run, as there were about 10 broken tackles on that one. So we haven't seen Mac Jones really win a game. Now, he was in position to do so against Miami, and of course had the big fumble late there. But yeah, I just, if the Patriots fall behind, I haven't seen it from Mac Jones yet. And I'm telling you, I look at what New England is doing, and it looks like, the early days with Brady, just in the fact that they're not asking Mac Jones to win games for them, to make big throws. It's about everything else. The defense is going to have to be pristine. They're going to have to run the ball. He's going to have to make good decisions. And then, look, maybe a couple of years from now, they take the shackles off and, you can talk about Brady or whatever else. But, Bill Belichick developing quarterbacks, I just see it very similar, very conservative. And it's tough to win games like that unless you really have an elite defense, an elite ground game. And this is a tough matchup against New Orleans here.
That's really, I think, where I'm at. I really like Damian Harris. He's an impressive player. That run last week, that was against the Jets. This is a tough spot. His rushing prop is just 60.5. If he goes under that, where is the offense coming from? I mean, I think James White will be busy. I actually like his receptions prop over 4.5 at plus 100, just because I think they substitute some of these carries with dump offs. That's the way to attack New Orleans. So going to be an ugly game for New England's offense here. And for that reason, again, I think I have to lean to the Saints.
How about the other end? Just Alvin Kamara real fast. 8 carries, 5 yards last week against Carolina. Granted, they were behind for much of that game. But we know Bill Belichick, he wants to take away the number one thing you do. Last week, that was Corey Davis. And I think 2 of the interceptions were thrown in Corey Davis's direction, basically took him out of the game. Is it possible for New England to do what Carolina did to Alvin Kamara in the Saints offense?
I mean, I've been a little disappointed, not even with the carries, but, in a game like that, when they're trailing, you would think Kamara might have 10, 12 targets. He had 6 targets, 4 receptions for 25 yards. That's really, really disappointing. And I know Jameis is not Drew Brees, but I do worry a little bit about how they're using him right now. So without Michael Thomas, if they're able to take Kamara away, that's going to be a big situation, because the rest of the Saints offense is really not high powered right now.
And that was a game I watched a lot of. I live here in North Carolina, so it was the local game that was on. Winston really didn't turn the ball over a whole lot until they were behind multiple scores, and that's when you saw old Jameis come back and the bad throws into multiple coverage, throwing ducks and making poor decisions. I think the key here is that whoever scores first who's playing from ahead is going to be in a much stronger position, but I don't envision Jameis having a 4 turnover game or something like that. If the Saints are playing from ahead, that is not where the mistakes came against Carolina. It was closer to desperation time. The Jacksonville Jaguars, man, I feel like I've taken them each of the first 2 weeks and they burned me. They're getting 7.5 on their home field against this Arizona Cardinals offense that is just killing it with Kyler Murray. The Jaguars have lost 17 straight games dating back to last year. I'll give you the floor on this game, Ben.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Arizona at times looks unstoppable, and they're not unstoppable. Teams will figure it out. I just don't think Jacksonville will figure it out, because Jacksonville is truly awful. So you've got Kyler, and the thing about him, he scored twice on the ground. He hasn't even showed his legs, though. He's really not running unless he really needs to. They've got everything. I know they're a little banged up here and there, but it's hard to think that they don't really put some pressure on Trevor Lawrence in the offense. I know Hopkins is a little banged up, but I still think too much Arizona offense. But we're talking about spreads here. That's all that matters. Do I want to lay 7.5 on the road? Honestly, no. I really don't. I'm not going to go to Jacksonville either. Just going to kind of cross it off my card. Do you see anything here worth playing?
I'm playing Jacksonville, but I'm
Oh
like, I'm
man.
going to hate myself about 20 minutes into the game and fully prepared for that. I guess, so this is a thought I have. Would you consider Arizona's offense to be kind of collegiate in the
Yeah.
style of how they attack? Like,
Yes.
shouldn't
Kingsbury. Yeah.
shouldn't Urban Meyer have some experience slowing down those kinds of offenses? Like, is this one of those spots that, maybe Urban Meyer's college experience helps out a little bit?
That's an interesting wrinkle. I honestly haven't thought about that. I just look
I'm
at
trying to find a
Jacksonville.
way, man. It's 7.5.
No,
It's too many points. I'm with you, and I want to find a way, how I can take Jacksonville and not hate myself midway through the second quarter.
they've just been so reluctant to show any balance whatsoever offensively. Robinson is an afterthought. They do not run the ball at all right now. And I know they're falling behind, but they don't even try. And that's just, it's going to be tough to ask Trevor Lawrence, even against teams that I don't view as elite defenses, to drop back between 35 and 50 times every game and see what he gives them. So I see chat mentioning the Cardinals team total over. I get that. I think that's one way you could hone it in. No problem with that. You're a braver man than me. I respect it. I do. Jacksonville's been awful all year, and I don't know if they're going to step up today at all.
It's an ill feeling. It really is. But look, this is the NFL. 7.5 points, a lot of points. And as you mentioned, especially on the road, do we call it across the country for Arizona? I don't know. It's like the southern part. Maybe it's a little easier. Washington, Buffalo. Next up on the card, we've got Washington getting 7 points. This is a game that I do feel pretty good about. I picked against Buffalo last week to my detriment. I'm going to do it again. You're getting the touchdown. I like Taylor Heineke. Am I crazy? Like, I've seen this guy a couple of games, the playoffs against the Buccaneers, Thursday night against the New York Giants. This guy can make some throws. He's not a bad quarterback. I was kind of surprised that they, didn't give him a shot really this offseason and went to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I like Heineke in this spot to keep this game close.
So do I. I actually didn't think it was a huge drop off when Fitz went down, and it wasn't the best showing against the Giants, but they did win the game. They get the long week to prepare. Now, Buffalo, they did step up and they showed that they're still a very good team. They dismantled Miami in every facet last week. They are at home. I get it. I think Josh Allen will have success against this team, particularly in that secondary. But at the same time, I think Washington will have some success. I actually like the over in this game, 45.5. I think that the way Heineke plays, it can still utilize McLaurin. They can get Gibson involved. I think they'll have more success. I mean, everyone's going to have more success than Miami, but I think Washington keeps this close, a 24-21, hopefully a little more because that wouldn't help my over, but maybe I'll go 28-24 esque game.
What do you make of Washington's defense? Because the thought was they could take that next step and maybe become one of the elite units in the game. We certainly haven't seen that. I mean, Daniel Jones is running all over them on Thursday Night Football. Maybe it's just a wrinkle that they weren't well prepared for. This is to me like, when I talked about with Indianapolis, I thought coming into the season that would be a very good defense. They haven't played well from 2 games. I'm not going to run off them and say they stink based on that evidence. I kind of feel the same way about Washington's defense. They're not going to shut out Buffalo, not saying that, but this should be a good defense regardless of what we've seen these first 2 games.
I definitely agree with that. I'm not going to abandon them. It seems certainly the front is going to cause some problems for teams, but they haven't been able to hold up in the secondary yet. It hasn't been dismal. They're not like Detroit, middle of the pack, but certainly with Chase Young and the guys up front, Washington should have opportunities to get after Josh Allen to cause some problems. Can they convert him, though? Because what we saw against the Giants, they did that, and all it did was let Daniel Jones run wild. And that's something they need to be better at. I think they'll be better today. And again, they get an extra couple of days. That never hurts.
Big stat I saw floating around quite a bit this week. Washington hasn't won at Buffalo since 1987. So clearly put all the money on the Bils because, 1990s football is relevant today.
Yeah, I wasn't on the earth at that time. So maybe this will be a new experience to see that. Like I said, it's a tough game. I do think I'll say this. If you're looking for teasers, Buffalo is going to be a very common choice there, especially if it's north of 7 at your book. You're going to cross 7. You're going to cross 3. That's a really nice number. You're basically asking Buffalo to win the game. I think a lot of people who have Carolina in their first leg of teasers will look to Buffalo today, and I get that. I totally see that logic.
We appreciate you joining us here on our Awesemo Odds channel. This is the betting show. We'll be with you every Sunday morning, making it a part of your usual traditions on Sunday here all season long. We also have a YouTube channel for fantasy football. Now, if you love what we do for DFS, for sports betting, then you're going to want to subscribe to our Awesemo fantasy football channel as well. Beat your friends. That's the best gratification of all. And you can find the link in the description of this video. So go and subscribe now, turn those notifications on, and enjoy what we have in store for fantasy football. The Broncos at home, 2-0. Teddy Bridgewater just killing the spread, even with a big spread last week against Jacksonville, no problem. He gets the Jets coming off such a disappointing game. They're getting booed in their home opener. It's Zach Wilson's first game at home, and he's getting booed off the field and basically said he deserves it. And I don't see things getting any better for the Jets this week. How about you, Ben?
I mean, coming off 4 picks, you would think his priority will just be I swear to God, not even to win the game. Just don't turn the ball over and let's see what happens if you can do that. It's such a low total. But the problem is they're in Mile High. It's not a good spot. The Jets, as you already pointed out, are very bad. I don't think I'm going to lay 10 points, though. I'll say that. I know everyone likes Denver, and I think they're a fine team. To me, they're the opposite of the Giants, though. Denver's going to be 3-0. I don't think they're a 3-0 team. They're a good little team. They've beaten some pretty bad opponents in Jacksonville, and they did beat the Giants. Now they get the Jets at home. That's a soft schedule to start. Your boy, Teddy Bridgewater, who is the cover master, I don't think he's going to cover today. So Jets, they're not going to be in the game, but I think they keep it respectable.
Well, I'll jump on the Broncos here. I think the key matchup, the Jets are without left tackle Mekhi Becton. We saw the pressure on Wilson, what that resulted in last week against New England. Von Miller, it's looked like Von Miller the first 2 games for the first time in a while. I don't know how they're blocking him. So I do think that's a game that could get relatively ugly. Las Vegas. This is a game I went back and forth on a couple of times last night, but the Raiders are a 4-point favorite, and the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa is out. Jacoby Brissett is taking over. I guess my question would be, like we talked about with Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe it's not a very big difference there. I mean, I know Tua Tagovailoa, look, Heisman Trophy, national champion in college, top pick, but really underwhelming in his time in the NFL. I started looking more into Jacoby Brissett, and he's no Taylor Heineke, in my opinion. But how big a downgrade is it really for Miami, a team built on defense?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, as far as I know, did not win the Heisman, can confirm. But at the same time, you read my mind. I don't think it's that big of a drop-off. And that's no disrespect to Tua, but Jacoby Brissett knows what he's doing. He had some pretty decent showings here and there. He's somewhat mobile. He can do some things. This is kind of maybe a macro buy, and I do that sometimes in the NFL, more in college football. I don't think the Raiders are that good. They're getting a lot of love, and they should, because they've looked good to start the year. I took the 4. I like Miami today. I think people are going to overreact to the quarterback substitute. I don't think it's that big a deal. They're getting some weapons back. I think they'll be more dynamic on offense. You've got Waddle, Fuller, Parker, and I don't think the Raiders are that good. So this is one I'm going to play the narrative game. People thinking Tua being out, huge drop off. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. When I set the line and, again, looking at what these teams have done and the performance on the field, expectations coming in, I had Las Vegas by 2. So that's a big 2 points from 2 to 4. Huge. I had Miami, and then I started digging into it. I don't love Brissett, and this Dolphins offensive line has really struggled. And one of the things the Raiders have done well, I know we always focus on the quarterbacks, but they've rushed the passer well. I don't have a great feeling about this game. I like your logic there, and I might change this one again later, but I did take the Raiders ultimately, given the 4 points, and maybe falling into that narrative a little bit. That's a tough game. That's a stay away from me.
Yeah, this is one I definitely like it more than you. Miami's on my card, and I feel okay with that. We'll see with Derek Carr. There was a point where it looked like maybe he was going to be in danger of missing the game. That does not seem to be the case, and he's been great so far this year. He's using Ruggs. He's got Waller. No Jacobs. But at the same time, I really think these are really important points. 3.5, 4 points for Miami. That is where I'm going.
As of last night, I felt really good about this next team, and that was the Minnesota Vikings getting 1.5 at home against Seattle. But now it seems that Dalvin Cook is not going to play. And usually I could give a crap about a running back if they're going to go. If they're not, they're generally replaceable. Dalvin Cook does so much for Minnesota that he is someone that affects how I view this game overall. So look, Seattle's coming off a tough loss at home against Tennessee. Russell Wilson 7-0 in his career against the Vikings, for whatever that is worth. Also, I mean, the other edge for the Vikings would be they haven't had a home game in front of fans in almost 2 years now, so it's going to be raucous there in Minnesota. But if Dalvin Cook's not going, I have a hard time seeing Minnesota win this game.
I liked Minnesota. I'm with you. I liked Minnesota a good amount. I'm putting them in the bucket. You know, you may be watching the show and saying, well, this guy, then who are the bad 0-3 teams? Because every team that's going to be 0-3, I say, well, they don't belong in the 0-3 category. But I really don't think Minnesota.
You didn't say that about the Jets.
Well, they belong in the 0-4 category, even though they've only played 3 games here. Minnesota should have won last week against Arizona. If they were 1-1, this spread, I think this is what I always say with stuff like this. If Minnesota makes that field goal, what's the spread in this game? I think Minnesota would be favorite. To me, missing the field goal doesn't make them more or less likely to win this particular game. Dalvin Cook being hurt makes them less likely to win this game. But I do think Madison is a pretty ample substitute. You've got Thielen, you've got Jefferson. Osborne apparently is useful, and that can be helpful. I'm still going to back them at home. This is an all-in situation for the Vikings. They have to win this game. I know Seattle's a good team, and them dropping to 1-2 would be surprising. I think Cousins will be really effective today. Minnesota in a hard-fought game. Tough one to bet, but if I did, I'd probably forego plus 1.5 and take, maybe like plus 110 Minnesota outright.
All right. Look, I'm not going to argue against it because I really liked Minnesota going into last night. The Dalvin Cook news shook me a little bit. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all our shows. DFS offers giveaways and much, much more. And of course, once you subscribe, hit that notification bell and get alerts when our shows go live. And we'll be with you every morning, 9 o'clock. You, of course, catch the replay whenever you want, all the way up to kickoffs at 1 o'clock and beyond if you want to get our late game picks. One of those late games, the Rams, the Bucs. I think the game of the day. I don't think I'm alone in that. To me, this line is right on the money. The Bucs are favored by 1. The Rams on their home field. So you're really just saying, who do you think's going to win this game? Well, who do you think's going to win this game, Ben?
I think the Rams are going to win the game, but it's tough. They opened as a favorite and it immediately swung through 0. And I get it. Tampa's a damn good team. I don't think Antonio Brown being out is a huge deal, to be honest. I trust Sean McVay is going to have them ready. And I think I'm going with, again, something that I focused on this season early. I think Tampa's secondary is actually terrible. I respect the team. They're high powered. I like the front. You can't run against them, just like New Orleans. Tampa's secondary is going to get exposed. I don't know if it's just going to be Cooper Kupp. I think Woods could have a big game. I think Tyler Higbee in particular can have a big game. Henderson being hurt, Sony Michel is not the right back. They got to spread him out here because the only way they're having success is through the air.
Well, we see the Cowboys. They were able to do whatever they wanted through the air against Tampa Bay. Atlanta was able to fight back. They got to within 28-25 before Brady led a touchdown drive and then a couple of pick sixes. And all of a sudden that game looked like a blowout. But I mean, that was like late third quarter and Atlanta was very much in that game. I agree with you. You know, what I think is interesting is these two teams kind of mirror each other a little bit, right? I mean, the Rams are trying to be what the Bucs were last year. Bring in the veteran quarterback. You have the infrastructure in place and let it fly. Can Matthew Stafford beat Tom Brady? And I what he was last year. And I think so far you gotta love the results. I do like the Rams here.
Yeah, there's a state. I also think the game in general is a lot more important to the Rams than the Bucs. Like the Bucs get blown out. They know who they are. They will be ready. They will be fine. I don't think this means anything long term. Rams at home should be a statement type output. Doesn't mean they're just going to blow them out, of course, but I think the Rams will be ready to play and will look good today.
Sunday Night Football. I know I've been a little wishy-washy on some of these games. This is not a game I'm wishy-washy on. I love the Packers tonight. They're gaining 3.5. You have the hook there. Look, points are going to be valuable in this game, but the Packers did show they could score a little bit last week as they were able to eventually put the Lions away. I do like the Niners. That is a good football team, but they want to run the ball on you a lot. They're lacking as far as the running backs go. That's a big part of what they do. Is Jimmy Garoppolo winning the game for San Francisco? Look, I like Green Bay, even on a short week, going out to San Francisco. You give me 3.5 points. I feel really good about Aaron Rodgers' team.
I lean that way. You definitely like the game a little more than me, I think. But, when you look at the Packers, they're coming along just fine. They woke up a little bit against Detroit. They got to clean up the front a little bit. They've given up 4.8 yards per rushing attempt. That's not great against a team like the Niners, who are just going to test that. But at the same time, you've got Aaron Rodgers. I think he will look sharp tonight. I think the Packers defense will look sharp. I kind of view it as kind of a toss-up game. So if you're going to give me a good number, if I had to take a position, I would be with you on the Packers.
Yeah, you're getting 3.5. I think that's a nice number there. So Green Bay, look, you can hear about the Aaron Rodgers revenge game for the 90th time in his career going up against San Francisco, but not because of that. But I do like the Packers here. And for lock it up, I'll take Green Bay to cover, and I'll throw a couple of bucks too on the Packers to win outright in that game. I do feel very good about Green Bay.
Lock it up's been good so far. We're going to keep it going.
2-0 last week.
Chat. You can catch this and so much more on this channel. Hit that subscribe button. We are growing, Pete. I'm very excited to see this channel really rising in numbers, and it's because of you guys in chat, and we do appreciate that. My lock it up. It's one of the first games we talked about, the G-Men. They're going to get it done. I love that number at 2.5 in particular. At home, Ingram back, Saquon rested. Giants make I don't want to say a statement, but they get it done today against Atlanta. That is my lock it up play of the week.
I agree with that 1,000%. So again, make this a regular part of your Sundays. Get the bacon, maybe not for Ben, coffee, but for everybody else. Yeah, make it happen. Put some Baileys in the coffee, however you want to do it, and have yourself a good Sunday. And we'll try to help you out a little bit here all season long. Again, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Check out the Awesemo Odds channel, Awesemo Football channel, DFS channel. We got a lot coming up today, obviously. NFL Deeper Dive starts at the top of the hour on the Awesemo DFS channel, followed by Live Before Lock. So have 40,000 things that you're rooting for all at the same time throughout the afternoon, and enjoy it, and good luck. For Ben Ross, I'm Pete McCarthy. Happy betting.